The Borderlands series united the genres of first-person shooter and role-playing games into one amazing franchise that continued to grow over time. The 3-game series, and an Australian spin-off that totally doesn't exist, defined the looter-shooter genre and created a home for you and your buddies to run around, kill baddies with big guns, and get even bigger guns. All of this was wrapped up in a cel-shaded art style with a mix of witty and wacky humor that still entertains to this day. To expand on this series, we have Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, a game that tries to push the barrier one step further and meld in the tabletop genre with a Dungeons & Dragons theme. There are bigger guns to find, interesting enemies to kill, and a stellar voice cast to join you on your quest to save the realm. Do we get to kill the dragon and save the princess, or have Gearbox trusted the dice gods just one too many times and rolled a critical fail? Let's dive in and go on an epic adventure together. My name is Kochi, and this is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Hold on, what game are we playing here?
We're playing Bunkers and Badasses, baby!
We need more calcium out here!
Now, if you want to see more reviews like this, please remember to subscribe and we can grow the channel together. I'll be reviewing this on the PC version through the Epic Games Store thanks to a code provided by the publisher on release. So if you've ever played Dungeons & Dragons or Bunkers and Badasses before, you will instantly have a smile on your face from the first exposition cutscene. The big bad end guy voiced by Will Arnett is introduced and you get a taste of what you're in for. You also get plonked into the game with your two advisors in adventuring, Valentine, voiced by Andy Samberg, and a wisecracking robot by the name of Fret, voiced by Wanda Sykes. A few jokes are thrown in at your unpainted character model's expense, which sets the tone for the entire game. Being the perfect blank slate that you are, it's time to jump into character creation and paint your model. There are 6 different classes in the game and they have a variety of different abilities that cover popular classes and other RPGs. You've got mages, rogues, barbarians, and more that specialize in various ways to play the game and chances to mix and match classes. This is done later on as you go through the game. You'll be able to select a second class and split your points between the two. Yep. You get to multi-class, baby! After completing various tutorials, you're dropped into the overworld where you can move around your miniature version of your character and explore the map laid out ahead of you. Along your travels in the overworld, you can find additional loot, secret treasures, shrines to gain permanent buffs, and much like the Pokemon series, random encounters in the long scary grass. These encounters chuck you in an instant battle with a bunch of enemies to kill. It's a cool feature that breaks up the travel, but as you continue through the game, they become a little more tedious as the rewards are not usually worth the effort put in, so I try to avoid them. Gameplay is what you would come to expect from a Borderlands-style looter-shooter series. You shoot, and you loot. There is a vast array of stylized weapons to shoot throughout the game, and you get to loot many types of crossbow-style pistols, melee weapons, and magical spells at your disposal. This is a fantasy setting after all, and some of the weapons are styled to complement this, as are the enemies. During my travels, I fought with bandits, skeletons, goblins, bipedal shark dogs, crabs, and more, which kept the gameplay engaging as there was always a new group of enemies to find the weakness of. To help with this, the shooting mechanics have been refined from the previous games and the gunplay is very crisp. Each shot feels punchy, and with the variety of spells at your disposal, it's great to mix and match as you go. This is great because you'll be doing a lot of shooting and maybe a little bit of looting, so keeping the experience both solid while being customizable on the fly works very well. Your reward for killing each area of small foes is a small pile of gubbins that you can use to compare to your current equipment, store to sell, or leave on the ground like the trash that it is. You have item slots galore with 4 weapons that you get unlocked over time, a melee weapon, magical tomes, ward shields, armor with bonuses for your class, rings, and amulets. This adds to the vastness of the loot explosions and gives you the options to pick and choose your perfectly crafted arsenal of items. All of the items come with a gear score number associated. At a glance, you can see which items you might want to equip for any current area, which is really good for customization. While it does feel like you need to constantly be upgrading your weapons due to the gear score changing frequently, the game doesn't restrict you outside of this. If you want to rock 4 green tier crossbow pistols, then go for it, and hopefully the enemies die before you drain your ammo entirely. After dabbling with some action RPGs like Path of Exile and Last Epoch, I found myself wanting some kind of loot filter as 70% of the things that dropped were basically useless for how I wanted to play the game. While this does change slightly as the game progresses, it would be a great addition to the experience as I spent a lot of time ignoring many of the game's items and searching for that gleam of a purple epic or a rare orange legendary. While the shooting and looting gameplay of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is the thing that gets you from A to B, it's really the quests that make the game shine. This is shown dramatically more in the side quest content than in the main story, which was certainly surprising to me. Since it's entirely optional, you never know what's going to be around the next corner, and it was these things that I wanted to explore more than progress the main story. The great thing about these side quests is that there's always something alongside them that kept me interested. While it's mainly filled with collecting X of Y to obtain a new shiny item, as is the case with many RPGs, in this case there's always some kind of story behind them, or a funny side quest character to talk to, and really interesting events could be missed entirely if you don't pick up the quest. Usually a quest chain will start innocently enough, and then by the end you're climbing beanstalks and allowing people to think they can fly on their broomstick, which is also a princess.
That's not what I expected.
The variety of references within these quests always put a smile on my face and kept me curious as to what I would encounter next. Did you want to fight a horde of Smurf-themed enemies who are infected by a wizard that spouts Star Wars dialogue? It's Murphin in there. No, seriously, I'm not Murphin you in the slightest. Throughout my travels, I've blown up metal bands, had demons possess me, and stolen King Archer's hand so that I could pull out the sword of extra caliber. And that was in one area of the game. The side quests had this sense of polish that made each one feel like it was worth doing. It's not just there for the shiny loot at the end, but it's there for the actual adventure itself, which was awesome to see. There were entire areas of the game that were completely untouched by the main story questline, so if you're just powering through to fight the big bad dragon lord, you're probably going to miss a lot of content. Speaking of great content, remember to subscribe to the channel. I am a growing YouTuber after all. If you haven't played Borderlands before, its writing is also grossly self-aware at times. In one side quest chain, I was collecting teeth for a goblin fairy. I went through 3 sets of collecting when a 4th set was announced to be collected. I threw up my hands and said, nope, enough. This isn't worth all the rainbow farts from Queen Butt Stallion's shiny backside. Lo and behold though, the game agreed with me, and after some silly banter between the characters refusing to collect any more teeth, DM Tina sent me back to the quest giver to turn things in. While it doesn't excuse the 3 rounds of item collection in the slightest, like buying me a nice dinner beforehand, it does soften the blow a little bit. Now, if you love puns like I do, then you're definitely in for a treat throughout your playthrough. The amount of references and pun-style humor is really off the charts in this game. From differently worded dialogue to NPC names and a bunch of skeleton pirates singing their version of Wellerman. It's all left me enjoying the time I spent exploring as much as possible. And no, I'm not apologizing to the people who just got Wellerman stuck into their head for the umpteenth time. It's a banger. The overworld is also littered with side quests that usually take the form of collecting pieces of a particular shrine that will give you a permanent boost, or to complete a dungeon that will give you a bunch more enemies to kill. These will assist you in leveling up along your travels, and it will give you more chances for that sweet loot. As I explored, it slowly grew on me that the enemies appeared to be tuned to the level around me, which felt a little underwhelming. It felt like I wasn't getting any more powerful because the world around me had also increased in level as I did. This is the Fallout 3 way of doing things, and you can take that as you will. While you can do things in any order, it starts to feel like it all doesn't matter at times because it will all scale up to your level as you play. Coming back to previous areas, or even looping through from the end of a map to the start, showed that the inhabitants are just as tough to fight as when you swept through them the first time, and the game really relies on those high tier loot drops to carry you through. This can also be annoying when you just want to run through the area that you've explored for the 4th time because you forgot a side quest and you either have to deal with the same murphing enemies again or just try and run through them. To make this even more frustrating is that the enemy's aggro holds on for dear life, like I hold on to the last caramel tart at a family buffet. While we're on frustrating parts of the game, let's talk about the UI. Because there is so much going on at any one time, it feels overly noisy. There are pop-ups for things all the time, and the UI and gun models dominate a lot of your screen real estate, even on a 1440p monitor. Add to this the constant voice lines shouted by almost every enemy you fight, NPC advisors prattling lines of dialogue, and all of the loot explosions with numbers galore on top of everything you're already as a fast-paced and explosive gameplay can be a bit much. Much like chugging a liter of energy drink as I enter the 2nd day of my weekend cocaine binge to finish the main story, the game felt a little bit overwhelming at times. Maybe this is just me getting old and decrepit, but it feels like the game is some ADHD-riddled teenager who thinks that if you stop looking at all the flashy lights and loot explosions for 1 nanosecond, you'll become bored and leave for something else. If the world just gave me a second to think if this gun swap is the right choice for my build, I'll continue to enjoy the game and be on my merry way exploring to the next location.
I would be a great king, probably the best. I'd make hurting my feelings punishable by death, and have festivals in my honor every day. Everyone would be happy all the time. But no, you must be a royal blood circlet.
think the experience would be greatly enhanced with friends, but... So unfortunately, I didn't get to jump in with my ragtag bag of adventuring friends, save for my trusty advisors piping up now and again to provide some witty dialogue. But to provide a great segue for myself, the witty dialogue from these characters is amazing. The voice work from the star-studded cast is really great throughout. Andy Samberg plays an Andy Samberg character through and through, and Will Arnett is a great villain as the Dragon Lord. I also love Wanda Sykes' sniping comments, which had me giggling like an idiot because all they wanted to do was play a murder hobo and get shiny loot.
Pirate quest! It's a pirate quest!
Valentine, do you want to go on the pirate quest?
Oh, I really do!
It feels like they really jumped into their characters and had genuine moments that all tabletop RPG players have along the way. Different ways to run the game, rule lawyering, and the completely derailing of an adventure because the NPC is wearing a cool hat, and that means that he's definitely evil, and the DM, Tina, making up something random on the fly. You know, normal D&D type stuff. As a forever DM in a previous lifetime, all of these things resonated with me quite well, and it was nice to see touches of this sprinkled in. If you aren't a tabletop RPG player, then this is probably going to break your immersion from the looter shooter that it is, but reminders that this world is created by our characters' imaginations, winging it sometimes feels really natural. Now, if you're playing solo like me, then the game will take about 16 hours to complete the main story, but that's only with about a third of the side quests being explored. There's still plenty of things to experience in the areas that I didn't even have the time to touch. While playing it on the medium difficulty didn't take too much of a toll on me difficulty-wise, I think that was mostly due to the level scaling that I mentioned before. When you have finished the main story, you will unlock the Chaos Chamber, which is a repeatable encounter area that scales up with your choice of difficulty. Because there doesn't seem to be any New Game Plus style mode available to you in this game, the Chaos Chamber can be seen as the repeatable endgame to keep players looking for better loot and tougher challenges. While I only played this a couple of times, it was fun to explore and continue my looting and shooting spree with only minimal interruptions to look for items and sell my unused crap. Also, as a note when you finish the game, watch the credits all the way through. There are some banger tracks to go with it, and there's a bunch of personal messages from the development team as they struggled through working from home and such to make this game happen. It was a really nice touch to see all of the players that worked on this game through everything over the past 3 years. The music got me thinking though. I kind of wished for a Wonderlands radio or something to listen to Fallout style while I was on my adventure. The atmospheric music is generally pretty good, but it was hard to really get a listen sometimes due to how much was going on. While you're exploring, you have background theme music, and when the action turns up, the music follows suit, but it does get washed out slightly. All in all, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is a game that rewards you for diving into the fun of everything it has to offer. If you enjoyed looter shooters before and you are wanting something more, then that's something that you need to pick up. From the amazing voice cast alongside you to the refined gameplay mechanics and new fancy items to collect, I can definitely recommend Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It's hours of replayable fun for you and your buddies to run around and shoot stuff until the end of the day. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope that you enjoy the game if you do end up picking it up. If you like the video, remember to give it a like, subscribe for more videos like this, and remember to read all the credits of the games that you finish. Until next time, Kochi, out.